Hello, this is Chris Bowling.
Hey, it's Chris Beyer.
We are CB Squared. And today we're going to be talking about multi-year strategy. So I'm going to interview Mr. Beyer.
It's my turn.
It is his turn, and we're going to figure out why a multi-year strategy is both beneficial to the consultant and to the employer. So Chris, you are, I have to admit, way better at this than myself. It seems like you are diligent about sticking to that strategy. I can't tell you folks how many times Beyer will send me a calendar invite about, hey, we have to talk about this because this is in our timeline coming
on the calendar, Chris. That's
on
why
the calendar.
We have to do it.
Beyer lives and dies by his calendar. So, Chris, tell me again how you started to come up with the multi-year strategy, how it was developed, and some of the benefits that both you and your clients have really received by your diligence on, or I should say due diligence on making sure that this is done month in and month out.
Well, it is still an evolving process. So I think, as we look ahead, everything can change. So plans will always be different. Calendar will always have to change. So I'm getting better at that. But I think as I entered the consulting field and I, looked at the industry, a lot of the employers that I would start talking to say, our broker will be here for renewal. Why don't you come call us at that point? And I say, I don't want to talk to you when you're going through renewal. That's a stressful time. You're already doing something with your current consultant. Why would I get into the mix of that? But I started hearing more and more that current consultant or that current broker was really just focused on that 2-month piece of the renewal. So we can do something different than that. I want to learn more about their business. I want to learn more about what they're trying to accomplish throughout the year. And, it's nothing proprietary. It's just, we want to do things that help you be in a better position as an employer. And that's going to require us to engage more than once a year at renewal. And so, as we bring on a new client and we start to work alongside with them, some clients already know what they want to accomplish. They've got very aggressive goals and we're just the ones to help them fulfill that. Some of our clients have no idea what they should or could be doing if they followed a timeline. And so we've got to build that with them. But ultimately, the benefit, I think, for the employer is that they know when to expect things to happen. And even though there's sometimes some mystery behind the renewal and we're not always certain if it's going to be good or bad, we can't always predict that. We have a plan once that comes out.
Right.
And, I think of a client of ours, one of our smaller ones, it would have been last summer. We had our pre-renewal meeting. We were meeting in July to talk about how the year had gone. Certainly we're in the middle of COVID last year. As they were planning for 1/1, what do we want to accomplish? And this was, maybe our 3rd year working with that employer. We were talking through how are we going to educate the employees and communicate now that we can't be in person. You're not going to have your all employee meeting as you typically do. Depending on how your renewal comes through, they're still fully insured. Do you want to market? Do you want to look at alternate carriers? Do you feel that disruption would be bad for the employees? And all of that together, we had a plan in place. So when the renewal came out, our account management team could say, here is the news. Based on our conversation in July, this is what our path will be, because we agreed that if it was this, we would go here. If it was that, we would go there. And we started that process and it made it so much smoother. I think at the end of it, both us as consultants and our team, as well as our clients, just feel that they've got a little bit of control over the crazy when it becomes renewal. I think those are some of the benefits that we're seeing.
Yeah, the multi-year strategy is probably overused, right? But
yeah,
where I find it to be beneficial is when you create a timeline that says this is what we're doing in year 1, year 2, year 3, because number one, it makes us accountable, right?
It does.
And 2, it makes our clients accountable. If you don't do X, Y, and Z, then I can't do what is on my timeline.
Yeah.
And what's great about that, which again, you're so good at this, is that we'll have a call to plan for what's on that calendar to say, okay, has anything changed in your business that we need to back this up? Is there something that's taking priority over what we want to do? Because we get at the end of the day, you're there to run your business. You're there, to make sure that you're profitable.
Yeah.
And yes, we are a small portion of that, which is healthcare. But, one thing that you just said was, having a meeting to consistently learn about their business. Why do you feel that that's so important? Because I think sometimes that gets missed is that, and I will raise my hand and say that I'm guilty of that. I come in, I have my agenda and I'm
Yeah.
talking and I don't pause and say, hey, tell me about what's happening within the organization. And I think you do such a good job at that. And why do you do that? Why do you think that's so important to that multi-year strategy?
Part of it's just I'm inquisitive. I've always been one that wants to know how stuff works, how it operates. I mean, that's probably just part of my personality, but I want to know what makes that company unique. I want to know what challenges they're facing. I don't want to be the insurance guy. That's boring.
Right.
There's so much more fun in being able to have a meeting. I'm later today, I'm having a meeting with a client. We're way away from renewal, and we're just going to sit down and talk about what's new within that organization because they had some challenges last year and they've got a couple of things they wanted to accomplish in the first quarter. We're talking solely about those goals that have to do with their business. We'll probably have a little bit of conversation on what's going on within their healthcare plan and some of their benefits, but I'm getting to know them and I'm getting to hear what's working well for them. And that helps prevent us from coming in and throwing something at them that doesn't fit. And, we talk a lot about the right tools at the right time and being able to deploy those only if you need it. But if we started working with that client 3 years ago and what we thought was the right tool and strategy 3 years ago is definitely not the case anymore. We have to continually ask those questions and make sure that we're on the same page. Otherwise, again, we're trying to stick technology in for an employer that says, no, my employees won't respond to that. Or we're trying to throw self-funding to an employer that's struggling with cash flow. I mean, you just have to ask bigger questions than just what's going on with your renewal.
So I'm going to switch gears on you a little bit. Obviously a multi-year strategy makes sense, but how do you get there? So, let's talk about our process of how is a multi-year strategy even developed?
Yeah, that's really good. It goes back to our discovery meeting and having the input from all of the key members of that team. That's usually the CFO and HR director. Often it's operations. We like to have the owner or the CEO in there as well and let them talk about what the perfect situation looks like. What do you see in 3 years that if you could accomplish this as an organization, you would be celebrating that accomplishment and we would all be, rallying around you because we've reached that. Hearing that initially from each of those positions in the company or the organization helps us build that strategy because it might be reducing turnover in key employee positions. It might be we have to transition our CEO out because they're close to retirement. It has nothing to do with insurance, but it gives us a flavor for how much bandwidth they have to make changes and what their appetite for change is if we're going to suggest things. And then we back it in from there. You said this is what you want to accomplish. These are the things that we know are going to be a challenge to get there. Timing, funding, all those different areas. And then we put together 3 or 4 key objectives for this current year that we're going to accomplish. And we check those off the list. We're coming back and asking again, okay, now that these are done, what comes next? And we have the vision for 3 years out there usually, but every year is going to continually change and evolve, but we still have that initial vision cast by the organization.
Well, and it's all tied to how do you become a high performing health plan? And what's your favorite phrase about how do you compare?
Yeah, nothing is good or bad, better or worse, except by comparison. We picked that up from some of our coaches and we utilize that, but it's so true that when we're talking with an employer, they're in their space. They say, we're really good. We're happy where we're at. This is working so well. And then you compare to what's going on geographically or by organization, by other employers. And all of a sudden they are either a shining star or we realize, wow, we could be better. And it's expanding that thought of what could be. And that's part of our discovery meeting and part of what we deliver back to the client.
Well, and I think that phrase works with us as well. So many people we talk to, we're so happy with our consultant. Why? So, and our clients push us the same way. Hey, you know what?
Yes.
Compare with what we're doing to what's out there.
Right.
And that's a good way to understanding, do I have the right consultant pushing my organization forward? And
Right.
the only way to know that is to compare. And it's not through a quote. And
No.
it's not by a big, shiny, stupid toolbox of here's all the stuff we have,
Yes.
because everyone's got a lot of stuff. It's how do you execute, and
Yes.
how do you identify what's important to me being the employer, and to my employees. So,
Absolutely.
but yeah, I love that phrase. I've heard you use it many, many times. So, folks, that's a little bit about why we believe a multi-year strategy is important. If you're not using one today, we would encourage you to do it. It's just being proactive more than anything. And none of us, including your consultants, like to be in a reactive situation. So we appreciate you very much. Thanks for listening to both CB Squared today. Mr. Beyer, thank you for your insight.
Absolutely.
Everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thanks so much.